Okay, we're gonna start worksheet 17. Second part of the statistics, we'll talk about this thing called frequency table. In the last worksheet, we discussed the difference between a population and a sample. Again, population is every element that we're interested in or everyone that we're interested in studying, and a sample is a subgroup of a population. We're gonna gather data from a sample, usually from a survey. This sample data is used to represent the population. Again, population, there are so many people, so it's hard to survey every single person. That's how you use a sample to represent the population. In the worksheet, we'll discuss different ways to organize and summarize the given data. So once we have the survey and then get the result from our sample, like what do we do, how do we organize it, how do we summarize it, we'll talk about that today. Okay, so first topic is a frequency table. A frequency table is a common way to organize and summarize a given data set. Data set is divided into different classes or categories or subgroups. So basically, once we gather data, we're going to split that into different groups and put them all together so it's easier to organize. A frequency of a class is the number of elements. So for each class, we're going to count how many elements are in that particular class that belongs to the class. A relative frequency, I'm going to highlight relative. Relative frequency just means it's a portion or percent of the frequency compared to the whole total number of elements in the given data. So this is like the whole sample, so the entire data set. So I just want to see what percent of the data set is in the particular class. So frequency is how many elements are in the particular class, and relative frequency is just frequency divided by the total number of elements. Okay. All right, side note, if there are more elements in a class, that means I'll have a higher frequency, which in turn gives a higher relative frequency. So kind of like what I expected, if there are more stuff in the class, then it'll have a higher frequency. That means it's going to have a higher percent, which is relative frequency. A relative frequency is basically a probability of a class. When a random element is selected, the class with the higher frequency has a higher chance of being selected. So if you look at the formula of relative frequency, it's frequency divided by total, and probability is like number of elements in an event over sample space, everything, right? So it has the same probability, same format. So I can somehow think of relative frequency as probability also. All right, let's look at the next topic. A bar graph or histogram is a graphical representation of a frequency table. Usually we put the classes on the x-axis, the horizontal axis, and the frequency, or it could be relative frequency on the y-axis, which is the vertical axis, right? So vertical axis like this, horizontal axis like that. Again, a class with a high frequency result in high or tall bar. All right, let's look at some questions here. Number one, consider the survey data on students' favorite online streaming service. Somebody likes Netflix, somebody likes Netflix, Disney, Hulu, so on and so forth. There are a bunch of people surveyed here, right? Create a frequency table. So my classes are, there we have Netflix, Disney, Hulu, and HBO. There are 4 different classes or 4 different subgroups or 4 different categories. So frequency just means how many elements are in Netflix class. So I'll just go and count the number of Netflix. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there are 6 people who answered Netflix as their favorite streaming service. So I'm going to write 6 here. So basically, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. How about Disney Plus? I go 1, there's 2, there's 3. I think that's it. So 3 for Disney Plus. How about Hulu? I got 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, 4 here, 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make sure I counted correctly. And then HBO, I got 1, 2, and 3. I think that's it. 3 HBOs. Okay. There were total of, so if I were to add all these numbers, that's total number, right? So 6, 12. So there'll be 17 total. Okay. So that's the frequency. It just means how many elements are in each particular class. Okay. Relative frequency is just a percent. So for Netflix, there's 6 out of 17. So it's exactly like probability, right? If I pick one person, what's the probability this person likes Netflix? Well, 6 out of 17. So that's a relative frequency. So I'll do 6 divided by 17. As a result, you get 0.353. I'm going to round to the 3 digits. Or you can say here 53.3%. Either way is fine. So I can leave it as a decimal. You can leave it as a percent. Doesn't matter. Same for the Disney Plus. There are 3 people. The frequency is 3. So what I can do is I go 3 divided by 17 again. So if you calculate that out, I get 0.177 or 17.7%. Kind of do the same thing for Hulu. It's 5 divided by 17. So 0.294, 29.4%. And the last one is 0.177, so 17.7%. If you were to add all this relative frequency, you're supposed to get 1. Here you get actually 1.001 because of rounding off error, which is fine. So when I add up all these 4 numbers, theoretically you're supposed to get 1 exact, but if you get 1.0001 or 0.999 because of rounding off error, that's fine. So that's my relative frequency table. All right, so that's our frequency table. Now let's look at part B, create a bar graph. So I'm going to try to represent the table like graphically. So again, bar graph, I want the x-axis usually is going to be your classes, and then frequency is going to be your y-axis. So here what I'll do is, so I'll draw y-axis, I draw x-axis, there's x-axis, y-axis. Again, the horizontal axis, I'll put classes. And then the vertical axis, I'll put the frequencies, right? So again, on what classes do I have? We have Netflix, Disney, Hulu, HBO. There are 4 classes. So I'll mark those 4 classes. This is Netflix. Then we have Disney. We have Hulu. We have HBO. Okay. Now, frequency, it ranges from, if I'm looking at the frequencies, 3 is the lowest frequency, 6 is the highest frequency. So I want to make sure when I label the frequency, I want to make sure the highest one is included. So 6 got to be somewhere here, the top. So I'll just go according to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I'll just make sure the highest frequency is included. Do I always have to go by 1? No. If my Netflix was like 26, then I don't want to go by 1, then like how am I going to get 26? So I can go by 5, I can go by 3. Okay, so it doesn't have to go by 1. So Netflix is 6, so this is 3, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1. So I'll have a big high bar for Netflix. And then Disney is 3, so Disney's bar is going to be just lower. Again, Hulu is 5, bar here. I got this bad graph. HBO is 3, so 3 is about here, right? So you can color in if you want to, you don't have to. So this is just graphical representation of the relative frequency. So again, Netflix is the highest, has the highest frequency. Most people answer Netflix, that's why it's gonna have a highest bar. Disney and HBO has the lowest bar because they have the lowest frequency. All right. For the next 2 questions, there is at the end of the worksheet, there are 2 tables. Here, let's scroll down here, their birth order. So again, this is from the survey. Some people are like youngest ones, if it's the eldest one, I'm the only child, none of the above. So these are data that's given to us. The second table, they ask each person 2 questions. Do you usually eat breakfast? Are you over 25? So first person answer no and no. So this is young person who don't eat breakfast. Let's say like third person, older person who usually eat breakfast, and so on and so forth. So here I'm gonna have you use that data set that's given to you. See if you can answer number 2, kind of same thing. Number 3 is slightly different type of data. Here we have 2 categories: over 25, under 25, usually eat breakfast, usually don't. So this one you have to kind of tally up. So for example, if I look at the data set, the first person, no. This person will go into, they don't eat breakfast, they're not over 25, so this is going to be here, right? They don't eat breakfast, and they're not over 25, so that person is going to be 1 here, right? So I'll go through each list and tally up so I can get a number here. Then once I have that, I have some review questions as well here. All right, I think that's it for this worksheet.